You ever get that gut feeling? That gnawing, whispering voice that says, "Hey man, maybe your wife's not just working late because she loves her spreadsheets." Yeah, that voice moved in, put its feet on the coffee table, and refused to leave my brain for about a year and a half. Now, let me back up. My name's Nolan. I'm a data systems analyst, which basically means I help companies keep their information from falling into black holes or Russian bot farms. I'm a pretty chill guy. I go to work, come home, cook dinner half the time, and don't cheat on my wife. I know, gold star husband material, right? Cassandra, my wife, works in nonprofit strategy. Her official title is something like Director of Development and External Relations. What that means in practice, as far as I can tell, is she attends a lot of stakeholder dinners, goes on retreats with donors, and has very long text threads with her mentorship circle that she keeps mysteriously face down whenever I walk by. At first, I chalked it all up to her being career-focused. I mean, we're both busy professionals, right? I work weird hours sometimes too. But then came the perfume. Not hers, not the one I bought her. This one was new. Expensive. Not a brand you'd pick up at Sephora. It lingered on her when she got home at midnight, acting like she'd just saved an endangered dolphin colony over martinis. I made a joke once. I said, "You smell like you got promoted and kissed by someone with stock options." She laughed a little too hard. That was the first red flag. The second was when she started locking her phone like she worked for the CIA. The third was when she stopped making eye contact during Sunday breakfasts. You know the kind, the quiet, shared coffee mornings that once felt like a ritual. Those turned into her scrolling while pretending not to notice I was watching her pretend. So I did what any emotionally repressed, slightly paranoid, spreadsheet-loving husband might do when he starts to feel like the fool at his own dinner table. I hired a private investigator. His name was Ray, and he looked exactly like what you'd imagine a PI named Ray should look like. Late 50s, retired NYPD, smelled faintly of cigars and very bad decisions. He wore a tan coat even when it was 90 degrees and said things like, "We'll see if your lady's really a late-night hustler, or if she's just hustling you." Poetry, that man. I handed him a folder with Cassandra's weekly schedule, which she conveniently left in our shared Google Calendar like she was daring me to compare her fundraising dinners with her Uber receipts. Ray took it without judgment. 2 weeks, he said. If there's something, we'll find it. If not, at least you'll sleep better. Spoiler, I didn't sleep better. Because somewhere around day 6 of this little loyalty surveillance program, I saw something I wasn't prepared for. Not just the affair. No, that part, I braced for. What I wasn't ready for was how casual it all was. She met him at a rooftop bar, hugged him like they'd done it 100 times, kissed him like she didn't have a wedding ring tan line. He was tall, annoyingly handsome, with the kind of hair that said I wake up looking like this, and I probably use words like synergy unironically. Ray got photos, videos, timestamped logs. "Your wife," he told me, "has been in a consistent pattern of deceit for at least 6 months, possibly longer." His tone was professional, but I could tell even he felt a little bad handing it over. I didn't cry, didn't rage. I just took the folder, paid Ray, and thanked him with the same voice I use when a barista gets my name wrong on the cup. Inside, I was already writing the ending to a story Cassandra didn't know she was in. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. That's what she'd expect. Drama. Screaming. Maybe even tears. No. If she wanted excitement, she could have it with Synergy Man. I was going to give her something else. Silence. Strategy. And a slow burn she'd never forget. There's something strangely freeing about knowing you've been betrayed. Like when you finally stop pretending your car doesn't make that weird noise and just turn up the radio. You know it's broken, but now you get to decide what kind of music plays while it falls apart. I didn't confront Cassandra. That would have given her too much power, the kind that makes people cry crocodile tears and recycle the same 4 excuses every cheater pulls from the dusty shelf behind their dignity. No thanks. Instead, I smiled. I kissed her on the cheek when she got home from her board meeting. I asked how the Capitol campaign was going. I even offered to drop her off at her next leadership summit. She declined, of course, claimed she was carpooling with a colleague. I nodded like a fool. A supportive, doting, tragically naive fool. God, I deserved an Oscar. Meanwhile, I was busy, very busy, laying digital breadcrumbs. See, there are benefits to being a systems analyst. I don't just know how data moves. I know how to make it talk. And once I decided I wasn't just the guy getting cheated on, but the guy building the blueprint for her downfall, well, things got interesting. I created a mirrored cloud drive. Everything she saved on her laptop, which she logged into with the same 3 passwords she'd used since grad school, now backed up to a little folder she didn't know existed. Meeting notes, travel confirmations, Uber history, even that one blurry selfie she took with Mr. Synergy himself at a hotel pool in Santa Barbara during what was allegedly a women's leadership retreat. Ray had the photos. I had the digital paper trail. Together, we were like Betrayal's Batman and Robin. Then came the email. A single message, buried in her personal folder, with the subject line, "Just for us, Red Heart." And in it, a hotel receipt from a boutique spa resort. 3 nights. Couples massage. Dinner for 2 at some overpriced chef's table restaurant where they serve scallops that look like punctuation marks and call it culinary storytelling. I swear, if I wasn't so furious, I might have laughed out loud. Instead, I made a copy, printed it, highlighted the spa package, because why not? Cassandra had always said she didn't really believe in massages. Guess Synergy changed her mind. But I wasn't just collecting evidence for my own satisfaction. I had a plan. A slow, meticulous, beautiful plan. It started with the house. We own a 3-bedroom colonial just outside of Baltimore. Nothing fancy, but the kind of place with decent bones and a kitchen island I'd personally installed during lockdown. Cassandra had always wanted to renovate the upstairs bathroom, said it would increase resale value. I agreed, enthusiastically, because nothing screams marital bliss like planning a future with someone who doesn't know you've already started planning your exit. Next, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I called Dana Lee, a no-nonsense divorce attorney who's known in Maryland for treating marital betrayal like a hostile corporate takeover. She didn't blink when I told her I wanted to file, but not yet. She said, "You want to catch her in the act, or do you just want to burn it all down?" I said, "Why not both?" She smiled. I liked her immediately. Dana told me what to do. How to gather, what not to say, how to keep Cassandra from sensing the shift. Every move I made from then on was a calculated act of theater, the world's most polite hostage situation. And Cassandra? Oh, she was thriving. She started coming home even later. Slipped up and called me babe one night, then said she was just tired. She planned a weekend in D.C. for a professional development seminar and told me not to worry about dinner that Friday. I said I'd miss her. Even packed her a protein bar and a charger. She didn't know it yet, but she was walking into her own open grave, lined with screenshots, financial records, and the emotional equivalent of a flamethrower. And me? I was the grieving husband, the loyal man left behind, the guy everyone would sympathize with when the truth came out. I wasn't just building a case. I was building a narrative. Because when you catch someone cheating, it's not just about the act. It's about how you tell the story. The version that gets passed around at dinner parties. The one her friends whisper about when she walks into the room. I was crafting a legend. The turning point came on a Wednesday. She came home wearing a scarf. It was spring. 65 degrees. No wind. No need for neckwear unless you're hiding something. Like, say, the remnants of a passionate lunch hour betrayal. Cold in the office today? I asked, stirring spaghetti like nothing was wrong. She blinked. Oh, yeah. The AC was blasting. I nodded. Happens. HR should really handle that. She smiled and went upstairs. I almost felt bad. Almost. A week later, I found out about the bank account. Joint finances were always Cassandra's thing. She said she liked transparency. And by transparency, she apparently meant, I'm going to create a secret checking account so I can buy fancy lingerie and sushi dinners without you noticing. Unfortunately for her, she reused her favorite password, Vivaldi 2020, which I only knew because I bought her that dumb Vivaldi vinyl after our 2nd anniversary. Romance, am I right? The account wasn't huge, just a few grand, but it was clearly funding her little side romance. Dinners. Hotels. One suspicious charge for Skyline Executive Car Services, which is either a luxury rideshare or a cover for human trafficking. I didn't ask. Instead, I printed the statements. Made a neat little folder titled, Discretionary Spending. Put it right next to the one called Emotional Treason. By now, I had enough to obliterate her in court. But that wasn't the point anymore. See, Cassandra hadn't just cheated on me. She'd rewritten our marriage in real time. Gaslit me into thinking I was paranoid. painted herself as the victim of emotional distance and growing apart, while she was literally sleeping with someone who probably wore tailored joggers. And the thing about me? I don't rage. I don't scream. I weaponize data and let the truth do the screaming. The best part? She still had no idea. She still kissed me on the cheek before heading out. Still told me she loved me, in that robotic tone people use when they're running late for a lie. She even suggested we plan a trip, reconnect, she said. You've seemed off lately. I smiled. You know what? A vacation sounds perfect. She didn't notice the edge in my voice. But she would. Soon. There's a certain irony in watching your wife plan a charity gala while actively detonating your marriage. She called it Hearts for Humanity, which, frankly, sounded like the name of a cult or a Hallmark horror flick. But it was a big deal. Black tie, donors, press, the whole performative circus. Cassandra was co-chairing it, of course. She even had a feature in Baltimore Living magazine about modern nonprofit leaders reshaping the future. I read it while eating a grilled cheese sandwich, marveling at the part where she talked about the sacred trust of community work. If nothing else, the woman had range. The gala was scheduled for late May, a perfect storm of visibility, ego, and photo ops. And I knew, the moment she brought it up, that this would be the stage where everything came apart. Not in a messy, scandalous way. No, I'm not the kind of guy who screams in ballrooms. I'm the kind of guy who programs the lighting so it flickers a little too long on the guilty. But let's rewind a bit. By now, Cassandra was floating in her own delusion. I'd become so agreeable, so accommodating, that she probably thought I was in some kind of midlife surrender phase. She even started offering unsolicited kindness, like I was a dog she didn't want but couldn't quite bring herself to rehome. One night, she brought me takeout. I raised an eyebrow. Szechuan chicken? From Wang's on Eastern? She beamed. You mentioned missing it last week. Right. The last time we ordered from there, I'd been up until 3 a.m. installing a new water heater because she forgot to call the plumber. But yes, let's call this dinner a gesture of love. I thanked her, ate it, and watched her scroll Instagram like she hadn't just fed her husband while fantasizing about another man's hands on her neck. I know, I sound bitter. I am bitter. But bitterness, in the right hands, becomes rocket fuel, especially when paired with opportunity. The opportunity came in the form of an invitation. The gala, being the event of the season, according to Cassandra and no one else, required help. And since I was so good with techie things, she asked if I'd manage the digital presentation, PowerPoint, light programming, background music. It's not glamorous, she said, but you're just so good with systems. Oh, Cassandra, you're about to find out how good. I agreed, of course. Told her I was honored. Spent the next 2 weeks building a gorgeous slideshow of donor highlights, community stories, and quotes about integrity, compassion, and leadership. I even picked the music myself, soft piano instrumentals, barely noticeable, totally unobtrusive. Except for one particular section. Because see, Cassandra didn't know that the gala presentation would include a surprise montage. Just a brief one. 30 seconds, tops. Slotted in between her keynote intro and the fundraising appeal. A slideshow of her and Mr. Synergy. Taken from Ray's files. Hugging in hotel lobbies. Laughing over brunch. Holding hands in line at a gallery exhibit she told me was a board strategy offsite. But the real kicker? A selfie. Taken in a spa mirror. Cassandra in a robe. Him behind her, shirtless, grinning like a man who'd never had to explain anything to a lawyer. No nudity, nothing explicit, just clear, inarguable, timed and geolocated documentation. I embedded it with care. Disguised the slide so it wouldn't appear in the preview thumbnails. Labeled it Donor A/V-Clip 5B. A professional touch. And then I rehearsed my face. Because I'd be standing beside the projector when it played. Sipping champagne. Wearing a tuxedo. Watching the exact moment Cassandra realized the air in the room had turned radioactive. But there was still one more thing I needed. Witnesses. Not just guests, but the right ones. Her boss. Her board chair. Her 2 closest work friends, Dana and Elise, who had both gushed about how inspiring Cassandra was. So I invited them. Personally. Sent beautifully crafted eveets. Even called Elise. Said I was just so proud of Cassandra and wanted her friends to see her shine. I could practically hear Elise tearing up. God, I should have gone into PR. The night of the gala arrived like a thunderstorm in a sundress. I wore a black tux, fresh haircut, clean shave the whole 9. Cassandra looked stunning, of course. That was the tragic part. She always looked like the person she was pretending to be. Elegant, polished, graceful in a way that made people assume she had her life together. We drove to the venue in silence. She was nervous. I pretended to reassure her. "You've worked hard," I said. "You deserve to be seen." She smiled, not realizing just how literal that would become. The ballroom was packed. Champagne flowed. A jazz quartet played tasteful covers of songs everyone recognized but couldn't quite name. The air buzzed with money and virtue. Cassandra was glowing, hugging people, posing for pictures, giving speeches that made strangers want to write checks and adopt orphans. And then came the presentation. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up. I stood by the laptop, my finger hovering over the wireless clicker, heart pounding like a second drumline behind the tuxedo. Slide 1, Community Outreach Photos. Slide 2, Donor Highlights. Slide 3, Cassandra on stage with schoolchildren. Slide 4, the Just For Us montage. At first, no one noticed. A few chuckles, maybe people thought it was a light-hearted segment. A candid glimpse behind the scenes. Then, silence. Utter, consuming silence. Because there she was, projected 20 feet tall, clinking wine glasses with a man who was not her husband, hugging him in a towel, smiling up at him in a hotel elevator. One guest even gasped, not a little gasp, a full, sharp, "Oh my God." I looked at the crowd, then at Cassandra, who froze mid-sip of her champagne. I locked eyes with her, just for a second. Didn't say a word, just held her gaze like a mirror. Then I clicked to the next slide, as if nothing had happened, and let the show roll on. There was no scene. Not for me. Cassandra, on the other hand, made a quiet, hasty exit about 5 minutes later, murmuring something to the MC about an emergency, while trying to keep her lipstick from melting. Her boss followed her. Elise stayed behind, wide-eyed, mouthing, "Was that real?" I shrugged. Guess that's what transparency looks like. I spent the rest of the night chatting with donors, handed out business cards, smiled for photos. When people asked if I was okay, I simply said, "I'm great. I just believe the truth has a way of showing up, don't you?" They nodded. They always do. By the time I left the venue, Cassandra had already texted me 6 times. "What did you do? We need to talk. You're ruining everything. Call me. Please." I didn't reply, not because I didn't have things to say, but because I was finally enjoying the sound of her not knowing what came next. Cassandra didn't come home the night of the gala. I knew she wouldn't, not because she was too ashamed, but because people like her need time to draft the right version of the story. She was probably curled up somewhere with a crisis comms plan and a bottle of wine, rehearsing apologies she didn't believe in for damage she thought she could still contain. I slept like a rock. No dreams. No knots in my stomach. Just a strange, grounded clarity, the kind you feel when the fire finally burns everything down and all that's left is clean, scorched earth. By the time morning rolled in, she'd texted me 5 times. The 6th came in at 8:07 a.m. "We need to talk. Please. Just the 2 of us." I didn't respond. Not because I was trying to punish her, but because I genuinely had no desire to hear her spin it. I already knew her lines. It didn't mean anything. It just happened. I was lonely. You were distant. They always reach for the same script when the curtain falls. She came to the house that afternoon. No knock, just walked in like she still lived here. Technically, she did. Legally. Temporarily. But emotionally? That bridge had collapsed and was currently on fire at the bottom of a ravine. I was in the kitchen, making coffee. She stood there, half-wilted in her expensive trench coat, eyes bloodshot and jaw set tight like she'd practiced this in the mirror and still wasn't ready. "Nolan," she said, "we have to talk." I didn't look at her. "You're about 27 lies too late for that." She stepped forward, cautious, like the floor might open up beneath her. "I know you're angry." I finally looked at her. Oh no. I'm way past angry. I'm in the scenic overlook between liberation and indifference. Her breath caught, and for a moment I saw it, the flicker of something close to fear. Not of me, but of what she no longer controlled. "I didn't think you'd do something like that," she whispered. "At the gala." I leaned back against the counter, coffee mug warm in my hand. "And what exactly did you think I'd do, Cassandra? Cry quietly while you made speeches about integrity in a room full of people you lied to? Maybe applaud while you thanked your mentorship circle?" She said nothing. I tilted my head. "Or did you think I wouldn't find out at all?" Her eyes dropped. Guilt looked strange on her, like a tailored coat that didn't quite fit. "I made a mistake," she said finally. I smiled at that, A slow, bitter thing. You made a strategy. Repeatedly. Carefully. Over months. That's not a mistake. That's a campaign. I didn't mean to hurt you. Then you should have picked someone dumber. That shut her up. What followed was 27 minutes of her trying to explain things she no longer had the credibility to define. Something about feeling unseen, about Mitchell being a distraction, about how it didn't mean the marriage wasn't real. I let her talk. Not because I cared about her answers, but because every word she spoke pushed her further into the hole she dug for herself. When she was done, she looked at me like she expected something. Forgiveness, maybe. Or a shared sigh about how hard life can be when you're both just so busy. Instead, I walked to the dining table and slid a folder toward her. She hesitated. Opened it. Inside was a full breakdown. Hotel receipts. Text threads she thought were deleted. Credit card statements tied to a hidden account she'd opened under her maiden name. The name and contact info for her organization's largest donor, who had seen the gala video and asked, very politely, to be removed from Cassandra's quarterly updates. She looked up at me. You planned this? I nodded. Yes. With precision. She swallowed. You could ruin me. I took a sip of coffee. No, Cassandra. You ruined you. I just turned on the lights. The fallout wasn't immediate. People like her never go down in one dramatic swoop. They spiral in stages: denial, spin, panic, deflection, and finally, silence. But the spiral had started. Her boss requested a meeting. Her board went radio silent. Her curated social media accounts, full of self-affirming quotes and filtered brunches, suddenly shifted from woman on the rise to woman on pause. And still, I said nothing. No follow-up. No public statement. No confrontation. I let her wonder what else I had. Let her lie awake questioning what version of her story might leak next, and to whom. Was it over? Had she seen the worst of it? Or was there still one more photo, one more timestamp betrayal waiting in the wings? Suspense is a powerful thing, especially when it replaces the power someone thought they had over you. A week later, mediation was scheduled. It was technically voluntary, but I agreed, not because I thought we'd reach peace, but because I wanted to watch her squirm in a setting she couldn't control. She arrived 10 minutes late, as usual. Hair tied back, trying for composed. I wore the same gray sweater she once called boring. I liked the symmetry. Dana sat beside me, cool and sharp, flipping through our asset summary like it was a checklist of mild inconveniences. Cassandra's lawyer, some frantic junior partner with anxious eyes, looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Halfway through, Cassandra asked if we could speak privately. Just the two of us. Dana didn't love it, but she gave me a look that said, "Your call." I nodded. The mediator left. The lawyers stepped out. And for a moment, it was just us again. Like it used to be. Only now, the silence between us wasn't comforting, it was surgical. She stared at me. Is this really how you want to end things? I tilted my head. That depends. Is there a better ending you had in mind? You've made your point, she said. You've punished me. Publicly. Completely. I leaned forward. Cassandra, this was never about punishment. This was about truth. You built an image so perfect you believed it yourself. All I did was hold up a mirror. She blinked. So what? You want to destroy me? I didn't speak for a long beat. Then I said, quietly, I want to make sure you never do this to someone else. She looked like she wanted to cry. I let her. And then I stood up and walked out, leaving her in the quiet hum of her own unraveling. No threats, no scenes, no final blow. Just silence. The kind that lingers. The kind that says, I'm not finished yet. It didn't happen all at once. That would have been too clean, too cinematic. No, Cassandra's fall came in careful, calculated shudders. Like a building with internal rot finally realizing its foundation had been eaten from the inside. The morning after mediation, I woke up to an alert on my phone, a new article on a local nonprofit blog. It wasn't overt. No names were mentioned. But anyone who moved in our little Baltimore ecosystem would recognize the silhouette. When private betrayal becomes public spectacle, it raises difficult questions about the intersection of personal ethics and public leadership. I skimmed it while making toast. By paragraph 4, it referenced a now infamous gala slideshow and included a blurry still of Cassandra's face, mid-smile, moments before the bomb dropped. The post didn't need to say much. It didn't have to. Because in the court of public opinion, scandal isn't about proof. It's about optics. And Cassandra, for all her speeches about transparency, now looked like a woman whose truth had teeth. 3 days later, she was placed on administrative leave. The email was full of platitudes. We remain committed to our mission and to the highest standards of integrity. I imagined her reading it in her inbox, rereading it, waiting for the real message underneath. The real message was this: you are no longer the image you sold us. A week after that, her profile vanished from the organization's website. That's when people started texting me. Some were mutual friends. Others, acquaintances from fundraisers and brunches and whatever polite circles we'd once orbited. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. You didn't deserve that. If you ever want to talk, grab a drink, get away for a weekend. I ignored most of them, not out of coldness, but because I didn't want sympathy. I didn't need to be consoled for losing someone who never really belonged to me in the first place. I wanted something cleaner. I wanted space. Cassandra, to her credit, tried to get ahead of the narrative. She posted a long, vaguely spiritual Instagram caption beneath a filtered photo of the harbor at sunset. Sometimes life forces you to pause, reflect, and release what no longer serves your growth. Translation: I got caught. I'm embarrassed, and I'm hoping you'll forget if I use enough soft lighting and hashtags about healing. The comments were mixed. Some women, mostly the brunch and affirmation crowd, left hearts and doves and phrases like, "We love your strength, queen." Others were less forgiving. One simply read, "Maybe next time keep your healing out of someone else's marriage." Brutal. Honest. My new favorite stranger on the internet. The divorce proceedings moved forward faster than even Dana expected. Cassandra's lawyer, clearly out of his depth, kept trying to negotiate, but Dana didn't bend. "I'm not here to debate," she said in one meeting. "I'm here to confirm terms." Cassandra looked exhausted. Her face was thinner. She wore less makeup now, like she couldn't find the energy to paint on the mask. The irony? I still remembered the woman I married. I didn't hate her. I hated who she became when truth got inconvenient. I hated how easily she weaponized silence, how effortlessly she treated loyalty like a temporary lease. But even now, watching her crumble, I didn't feel triumph. I felt closure. Like finishing the last page of a book you didn't enjoy, but needed to understand anyway. The money was split. Fairly. Mostly in my favor, given the circumstances. The house? I kept it. She'd floated the idea of buying me out, a desperate bluff meant to save face. Dana shut it down with 3 sentences and a stack of printouts titled, "Funds diverted for personal use." We didn't ask for alimony. We didn't offer it either. When the paperwork was signed, Cassandra looked at me across the table. "Will you tell people everything?" I met her eyes. "I don't have to." "You already did." After that, she vanished from my life with surprising speed. She moved out of Elise's guest room and into some small apartment in Federal Hill. Word is, she tried freelancing for a few months, consulting, strategy, brand rehab. But it's hard to get hired when you're known for being the PowerPoint version of a scandal. Last I heard, she'd started a lifestyle podcast. Of course, something about resilience, rebirth, and feminine restoration. I listened to one episode, Morbid Curiosity, and made it exactly 6 minutes in. She talked about betrayal, not her own, the one she experienced. She said, and I quote, "Sometimes the people closest to you will try to break you just because they can't understand your evolution." I paused it, closed the app, and deleted it with the kind of satisfaction most people save for bubble wrap or resignation letters. And me? I didn't implode. I didn't spiral. I didn't go on a month-long road trip to find myself. I rebuilt, slowly, quietly. I started running again. Not for speed. For rhythm. For the simple proof that my legs still moved forward when asked. I redid the guest room, turned it into an office, put up shelves, bought plants I might actually keep alive this time. I joined a volunteer mentorship program, real one, helping high school students interested in data systems and engineering. Turns out, there's something healing about teaching others how to build systems that don't fail them. And one morning, 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood in my kitchen with sunlight pouring through the window and realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. Not because I forgave her, but because I'd outgrown the version of myself that needed her apology. Still, sometimes, late at night, when the house creaks and the silence stretches long, I wonder what she tells herself now. Whether she still thinks she was just unlucky, or whether, in the moments between filtered affirmations and curated vulnerability, she finally admits it. She didn't just lose a marriage. She lost the one person who saw her fully and chose her anyway, until she made herself impossible to choose.